Hello and welcome to Raising the Standards. Jacoby with you on a beautiful day with my partner, Bill Wolverton. Hello, Billy. How are you?
Doing great.
Happy summer to you.
Yes, indeed.
I guess we're a couple of days away for those that keep track of the solstice.
I clearly don't.
Well, we have a lot of Druid fans.
Okay.
we got a good show today. I'm going to talk in just a couple of minutes to the folks who directed a documentary called Everywhere Man, which is about Peter Asher. In fact, we're also on Weekend Liner Notes. We're going to play a little Peter and Gordon, so it'll be fun. We've got ourselves themed, as it is.
I see that.
With us on the line, calling from New York, I believe, Dana Goldfein and Dan Geller, the directors of the film. How are you guys?
We're great. And actually, yes, we are indeed. We're calling from...
Well, we're in Massachusetts.
Right. We're calling from Great Barrington, where the film festival, the wonderful Great Barrington Film Festival, is going on. And we were privileged to have Peter Asher, Everywhere Man, screen last night.
Now, wasn't it originally screened at Telluride?
Yes, that's the world premiere was at Telluride, and it had gone through a lot of wonderful festival screenings, and then Greenwich Entertainment is going to be taking it into theaters for commercial runs around the U.S. starting June 19th in New York.
Boy, that's exciting stuff. Now, Peter Asher, as a matter of fact, how this interview, Bill, this is really interesting, came together. As you know, we do Weekend Liner Notes every week, and I do it on my Facebook page, and I think I was doing Sweet Baby James by James Taylor, which we did last month. And Dana wrote me because Peter had, I think he managed or discovered for Apple James Taylor, and she said, you know, we're doing something with Peter, maybe you'd be interested. And that's how we reached out, and they had a great chat.
Yeah, because it just so happens, because you were featuring Sweet Baby James, that's a really influential and important album, not just because it's so stellar and gorgeous, because it's James Taylor, but because according to, I don't know if Peter would brag about this, but according to Danny Cooch Korchmar, it was the first album, maybe the first, rock album. I think maybe jazz albums had done it before, but the first rock album that featured the musicians on the back of the beautiful album cover.
Really? How that's interesting. And it was recorded on Apple, right?
No, by then Peter had come to the U.S. The very first James album was recorded on Apple, and there's a whole story about James showing up on Peter's doorstep thanks to Cooch.
In London.
But then Peter and James decided to leave Apple as things were beginning to crack apart over there at that record label. And Peter started managing James and also got him a record contract at Warner's, and then produced that Sweet Baby James album in the U.S. in L.A.
Now, tell me how this project came together, because I know you have a veritable who's who of the music industry that are part of this production, some of which you obviously were taped years ago. How did you guys get involved in this?
So, Peter has been doing, since 2011 or 2012, he's been doing this wonderful cabaret show. And when he just started doing it, which walks audiences through songs and stories, walks audiences through his unbelievably, just incredible life. And so I was fortunate enough to be taken to one of the earliest versions of his cabaret show way back in 2012. Not wanting to drop names too much, but basically, an old boyfriend of mine from high school happened to be living with Linda Ronstadt. Oh. And he called me, I know, in San Francisco. And
they were not living together as lovers. This is just a housemate situation, a kindness extended by Linda.
Yeah.
Well, let me cross Jerry Brown off the list, though.
Yeah, so a dear old friend called and said, hey, Linda Ronstadt has an extra ticket to go see this brand new cabaret show that her ex-manager is doing in San Francisco. Do you want to come? And I did not know who Peter was. But I said, if I get to sit next to Linda Ronstadt tonight, I will come to that show. And then the show started unfolding, and within about 10 minutes, I was very sad that there weren't 2 extra tickets so that Dan could have come with, because it felt so clearly like a documentary waiting to be made.
Well, that's the problem, Dan. Something that starts with the phrase "my ex-boyfriend" normally doesn't have a +1.
It's
So
true,
tell me-
I had known him, by the way, at that point, and he was a friend, so I felt okay. And Dana and I just celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary last week, so we're okay.
Lord, this is turning into Dallas.
Congratulations. Tell me about the connection between Peter and Paul McCartney.
So it's told really amazingly in the film, partly by Paul McCartney himself. But, Peter's younger sister, Jane Asher, was probably in the early 60s more well known even than the Beatles as an actress. And she was known as well as a music lover. And she was assigned to go backstage and interview this brand new group called the Beatles in 1963. And they met. She met Paul back there. They started dating. And lo and behold, they become boyfriend and girlfriend. And Paul moves into the Asher house and lives in the bedroom next door to Peter, who becomes buddies with him.
Wow.
That is amazing, and ultimately, that's very interesting because McCartney, Lennon and McCartney, no matter who wrote the song, would list it as Lennon and McCartney. But, and oddly enough, today's liner notes will be "World Without Love" by Peter and Gordon. McCartney took full credit for that, which was very rare.
That was a Lennon and McCartney song, actually, except for the middle 8. It had been demoed. John had heard it.
Okay.
It's just that John didn't like the song, but they did abide by that Lennon and McCartney agreement. But Paul did write some other songs for Peter and Gordon, again under that Lennon McCartney moniker. But there was one where he decided he would try to do something different, and he wrote a song called "Woman," which is a beautiful song for Peter and Gordon. Others have covered it. But what he decided to do in this case, and this is not a story that's in the film, but it's a great story, he decided to try to write it under a pseudonym so that people would not automatically assume a McCartney song would be worthy of topping the charts and people would go find their way to the single. And so he wrote it under a pseudonym of an imaginary character who was a Brit studying law in Paris so that no one could find this guy. And he invented the name Bernard Webb.
Okay.
And in fact, someone figured out it was actually McCartney, and the song did chart.
But just to correct something, Paul McCartney, you're right. He did write "World Without Love" by himself, but it was, and John hated
Okay.
it,
Yeah,
so they
right.
never. So the Beatles never actually recorded it. But Peter heard like the partially finished song, just because he was living next door to Paul, and he would hear all kinds of things. And when he and Gordon Waller got this contract with EMI, they suggested, that Peter and Gordon come up with a new song as opposed to the older ones that they were singing, like 500 Miles. And Peter thought, oh my gosh, I heard this song. I wonder if Paul would give it to us.
Now, that was ultimately their biggest hit, right?
Yes, I would say so. That's the one that just vaulted them into international stardom and got them onto the Ed Sullivan Show and everything that followed.
And it was it's a Beatles song. I mean, it sounds like a Beatles song when you hear it.
Yeah.
Well, it was written by Paul, hoping that, the rest of the Beatles would sing it. And then John kind of nixed it.
Well, didn't John do a song called "Woman" that was on the album with Yoko, the Fantasy album?
Yeah.
Which was a pretty big hit.
A huge hit, a completely different song.
Right.
And later.
Oh, that's right.
And later.
Yeah.
Yeah, later than the original Woman.
Now, Gordon passed away how long ago?
2009.
Okay. And were they touring all that time?
So I don't want to give away too much from the film because there are lots of surprises that come along. But they did break up, and they didn't see each other for decades. And then, lo and behold, and I won't say how it happened, but they were brought back together in the early 2000s, and they did start touring together a little bit again.
And now, as a matter of fact, I believe I saw the announcement. Peter is touring with Chad Or is it with Jeremy? Chad and Jeremy. With Chad, correct?
With Jeremy.
With Jeremy, I'm sorry, because Chad, I
Yes.
guess, is past.
Yes.
But they're going to be in our neck of the woods, I want to say in July at Coomba, which is the jazz club here in Santa Cruz. I saw that announced somewhere. I was talking to your friend Ben about that. So
When they tour together, it is really fun because here they are, the surviving members of two different duos coming out of the same era, roughly. And it's fun because they can really kind of take the piss out of each other in humorous ways, and both sing songs. And Jeremy's been writing songs all the way through, beautiful songs that he performs he's been writing ever since Chad and Jeremy.
I love that show, I love the Jeremy and Peter show, or the Peter and Jeremy show, and highly recommend it to anyone who wants to go see it. It's much rarer almost than just the Peter Asher Cabaret show, because to get the two of them together is a more rare opportunity. Anyway, I highly recommend anyone in Santa Cruz go see it.
and I'm certainly working on getting on that guest list and hopefully saying hello. You guys live in the city, don't you?
Yes, we do in San Francisco.
Might you come down to that show? We could all say hello.
I have a feeling we're going to be on the road at that point.
Okay.
I would love to come down for that.
Wait, just remind me what day it is.
I don't know. It's July sometime. I don't know the date, and I'm not sure what your boyfriend or ex-boyfriend's schedule is.
You know what?
But if we can get one ticket
not,
for you.
Then I get it this time.
No, I'll tell you what. If it's in the part of July where we're still in the Bay Area,
I would come down.
I would for
that'd be
sure
great.
come down.
That would be
because I love that show.
Now, talk about the some of the other. I mean, there are literally dozens of artists that appear in the documentary. Talk about some of the other people.
Well, Peter's career touched so many people, but especially as he moved into management, and then even more so as a producer. And we're talking about beyond James Taylor, Linda Ronstadt and Carole King feature prominently in the movie, and their stories are amazing. But then he produced and produced and produced, whether it's Donna Summer or Neil Diamond or Ringo Starr. I mean, he keeps on Barbara Streisand. 2 summers ago, he had a #1 hit he produced for Barbara, doing a duet with Lofe from Iceland. So his career has not stopped or particularly slowed down.
But one thing, Peter's very modest despite everything he's achieved. And so the first thing he said when we approached him about doing this, he's like, Dan and I were in the middle of finishing or editing our documentary about Leonard Cohen. And he said, you're in the middle of doing a documentary about Leonard Cohen, and I'm not Leonard Cohen. Are you sure you want to do a film about me? So that was Peter being modest. And part of him being modest was, he said, when we finally did get down to starting production, he said, I'm not going to actually call my friends and ask them to be in your film. So if you want to get, Carole King, and we already had Linda Ronstadt because she had become a friend of ours, and that certainly helped us get access to other people, because once people saw that Linda was going to do an interview, then it made it much more enticing for people like James Taylor, et cetera, et cetera. But because Peter is so beloved and respected, it really opened doors for us.
Now he's in his late 80s, isn't he?
Early 80s.
Early 80s.
He is 80. He's about to turn 82.
82. Okay. Talk about who was the how long did it take you to put all this together?
Well, there was a 7-year gap between when Dana saw the show and then when I got to see it in 2019, late in 2019, because someone else had started to make a movie about Peter, and ultimately she was unable to follow all the way through. And so we would always, in seeing Linda Ronstadt at Linda's place, say, what, do you know anything about that movie? And when that movie was dropped, we could basically start all over. And I saw the show in late 2019 with Dana and with Linda. I knew as soon as he started telling his stories that Dana was absolutely right when she had seen it in 2012. And we had arranged to have a little powwow with Peter at the end of the show and asked him on the spot. And then COVID happened. And so that put the kibosh on things for a while. We really started with the first interview in January 2023 with Linda. and then premiered it at Telluride just this past Labor Day, which would be September 2025.
Now, who of all the people, they're all important, obviously, but who was the real catch? You go, we'll never get so-and-so.
Oh my gosh. I mean, truly, I feel like they all were. Definitely getting James on board felt like a catch. And then, maybe even more was Carol, because again, Peter was like, I'll give you Carol's daughter's email, but that's as far as I'm going to go. So we shot an email off, and the response pretty quickly was, I'll ask my mom, but she doesn't really do interviews anymore. But, I'll go ahead and ask her. And amazingly, within half an hour, we got an email back saying, wow, mom said she'll do it if you guys fly out to Sun Valley.
So did you guys do all these interviews in person?
Yes, the only ones that were a little bit different with Marianne Faithfull, we did an audio interview remotely with her, which was a gas, as you would imagine. And then there were a couple of interviews that are so important to the movie that we were given. And one is an interview with Gordon Waller that was done, I think in 2006 it might have been, by Keith Putney, who was managing Gordon at that point and ultimately now manages Peter's career. And Keith had shot this backstage at a concert and just handed it over. We said, you do that. We're making you an executive producer. So thank you for that one. And then David Jacks, who has written a beautiful, comprehensive biography called Peter Asher, A Life in Music, had recorded audio interviews, including with Betsy Asher, Peter's first wife, who has a tragic spin and ultimately that we reveal in the movie. But Betsy, who when Peter met her, had been the Rolling Stones publicist in New York and a very involved music industry person. That audio interview, she had passed away years before we started this production. And that audio interview also is so important to understanding the Peter's story, but also the story of music in the 60s.
And the other one, I feel like it's not an interview that we ourselves recorded, but in terms of what feels like a real coup, is we got the rights to use an interview with Paul McCartney, which was done in the early 90s by Barry Miles, while Barry was co-writing many years from now with Paul. And no one had ever heard those tapes. There were just a whole series of cassette tapes that Barry recorded in preparation for doing his book. And when we interviewed Barry Miles in London a few years ago, he said, if you can get Paul's permission and get him to write to the library where my cassettes are stored up in Liverpool, you're welcome to use my interviews.
And did he give you Paul's daughter's email, or how'd that work?
Well done, Michael.
That was very well done. We somehow managed to scramble and get Paul's manager's email. That is great. But anyway, and it took way more than half an hour.
Yeah.
But ultimately, when we got access to, we knew what the interviews said because they're reported in the book. But to hear Paul's voice, actually, Paul's young, early 90s voice, talking so intimately about living with the Ashers and writing World Without Love and all of that, it feels like a real
And just a little context to that, because Barry Miles, John Dunbar, and Peter Asher had founded an art gallery and a bookstore that was the epicenter of London cool, cultural, intellectual moment. And of course, Paul is part of that. I mean, he was there all the time. Jane Asher was still around at that point with Paul. And so Paul had known Miles, as he's called, he's preferred to be called, for 30 years at the time that he sat down to do the Many Years From Now book. There is an intimacy between friends in those interviews that I think would have been very difficult for Dana and I to achieve with Paul McCartney. It's just so tender and insightful.
Well, I got to tell you, we spared no expense on this program, and to that end, our research staff, who we've named Bill, has come up with the Quamba date.
Yeah, the date is July 30th. So if you're not on the road, there you go.
We're going to be in Martha's Vineyard on the road with the movie showing that night to Kate Taylor.
Oh, not too bad.
Yeah. Oh man. But we'll be there in spirit.
Yeah,
You will.
Oh, good. I can reveal to you something that I think Jacoby might not know. I also have a connection to Linda Ronstadt.
What is that?
Her poster was on my ceiling when I was a sophomore in high school. I don't think she knows this.
The
Well, now
number,
we're going to tell her.
I will tell her.
the number of lines I can't use right now are legion.
Well, there was a reason my girlfriend that year, people said she looked just like Linda
Really?
Ronstadt. So
That's-
I think someone gave me the poster.
Tough life.
Lucky you.
Yeah, lucky
you.
me.
So ultimately, I hope I hope everybody goes to see this and you have wide distribution. But ultimately, are you going to cut a streaming deal?
Oh, well, that's the idea that we know that the preferred way for people to see the movie is in a theater. There's an amplification of the joy that people seem to be feeling with this movie, and also the sound is so good when they're in that big surround sound space.
Yeah.
But yeah, we also know that eventually it'll stream, and a lot of people will be able to access it that way.
So
Probably
you're
not till the fall, though.
right, but you're in Massachusetts now for this festival. Will you be showing it and when will it be released nationwide in theaters?
So it's opening on June 19th in New York at the Quad Cinema. But then the following week, June 26th, and actually a few days even earlier than that, it's opening in Los Angeles in several theaters, and it's opening in the Bay Area, San Francisco, Berkeley, Sebastopol, San Rafael, and then it's going all around the country. So if your listeners want to check the best thing is www.peterashermovie.com, and it has a list of all the cities, and they're continuing to add cities every single day.
Well, that is terrific, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Everywhere Man. It's
It's actually called Peter Asher Everywhere Man.
I was going to say that. She's tough, Dan.
No kidding. But on the inside, she's I wouldn't say a marshmallow. She's a fudge sundae.
I'm sure she's wonderful, and I realize why the ex-boyfriend took a hike. But you guys are terrific to take time and chat with us, and we do wish you the very best. And a little later in the program, we're going to do a liner notes, which on A World Without Love. So we've got that going for us.
Thank you, Michael and Bill. Thank you.
Dana Goldfein. Dan Geller, thank you guys. Break a leg at your festival and have a nice time in Massachusetts. We're going to say goodbye. And as a matter of fact,
yes,
next week, or in a date soon to come, because since everything is downloaded, but we're going to be talking to Jeff Lederer, who's done a new CD with Ornette Coleman music. So we're going to play a little Ornette Coleman now, and then get back to Peter and Gordon. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Ornette Coleman and Lonely Woman. That's as I say. Next show we're going to talk to Jeff Lederer, and Ornette is kind of an acquired taste, but
Yeah,
interesting.
I can sense that.
Yeah, you were saying your ex-wife wasn't a big jazz fan.
No, like you say, the ones that's hard to snap your fingers or tap your toe to.
That's true.
Didn't care for those.
That's true.
The syncopation she didn't like, and or the dissonant, none of that.
Yeah. Well, it can get a little frustrating, but
Yeah.
you either look at it like you love the spontaneity of it, but don't come there and expect any of the same old, same old.
I think you have to understand it to a degree to be able to appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's do liner notes. And first of all, I wanted to give a big thank you to those great folks, Dana Goldfein and Dan Geller.
You can tell they're really enthusiastic about their work.
They're great. Peter Asher, Everywhere Man, and what nice people. And we'll get them on again. Today we do feature a musician, a singer, a manager, a producer, and a rock and roll icon. Now, that's a lot of talented people, or it's Peter Asher. Peter and Gordon, Chad and Jeremy, Hall and Oates, Loggins and Messina, pop music loves duos. In fact, you can easily add to that list folks like Ian and Sylvia, Sonny and Cher, and Simon and Garfunkel. Asher's sister, Jane, was famously engaged to Paul McCartney for 6 years. And speaking of Sir Paul, who wrote, although not credited to Lennon and McCartney, Peter and Gordon's biggest hit, A World Without Love. Please lock me away and don't allow the day here inside where I hide with my loneliness. The song reached number 1 on Billboard, along with topping the UK and the Irish charts. Asher would go on to work with Apple Records, discover James Taylor, and manage Linda Ronstadt. In 2015, he became Sir Peter Gordon, as he was appointed to the commander of the Order of the British Empire. Ash, now at 82, continues to tour with Chad Jeremy of Chad and Jeremy, and continues not to care what they say. Still, he won't stay in a world without love. Enjoy.
Please lock me away and don't allow the day here inside where I hide with my loneliness. I don't care what they say, I won't stay in a world without love. Birds sing out of tune and rain clouds hide the moon. I'm okay, here I'll stay with my loneliness. I don't care what they say, I won't stay in a world without love. So I wait, and in a while I will see my true love smile. She may come, I know not when. When she does, I'll know. So baby, until then, lock me away and don't allow the day here inside where I hide with my loneliness. I don't care what they say, I won't stay in a world without love.
Boy, that brings back some memories.
Okay, you left out Captain and Tennille.
As duos, yeah.
You left out Peaches and Herb, but they just go on and on. They were so
do.
popular. There was some variety show that spoofed them, and I think they were called PC and Reese.
Really?
Which I think was Peaches and Herb.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you ever saw In Living Color, but it was a good bit.
Do you know how Chubby Checker got his name? Have I
don't.
ever told you that story?
No.
Dick Clark's wife. They needed to come up with a name for
Okay.
this guy when he was starting to record, and they knew each other. And she was saying, "Well, Fats Domino," and then
Okay.
she went,
Oh,
"Body
Chubby
shape,
Checker."
Chubby Checker.
I
And
didn't know that.
Isn't that great?
that fits.
See, then I was doing proper research. I have to correct myself. 'Cause
Yeah.
You must have been out of town when I was doing this research. In fact, it's Jeremy Clyde
Okay.
that is going to be touring with Peter Asher and coming to the Coomba on July 30th.
Okay.
That should be a great show.
Yeah,
We
sounds
should
like
go
it.
to that. That would be great fun.
They'll play with Husky Checkers,
Yeah.
if that's how the naming scheme
Yeah.
goes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I was just thinking plump mahjong or something. That's
We
not
can
gonna
do this
work.
all day.
Anyway, that's going to do it again. Thank you to everybody today. It was a good show, and this is a good month, and soon we're going to be talking to James Gavin on another show, who's written a great jazz author who's written books on, among others, Chet Baker, and has a new book coming up on Anita O'Day. So it's been a fascinating month. So glad. I hope you enjoyed it, because
Yes.
we certainly have here. The A train is on its way in. I am on my way out. As always, this show has been for Georgianne, for Mark, and for you. Until the next time we all get together and once again raise the standards, I'm Jacoby. I'll see you soon.
Hurry, 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 take the A-train to get to Sugar Hill way up in Harlem. If you should take the A-train, you get to where you're going in a hurry. Hurry, 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 now it's coming. Can't you hear the rails go humming? Leota, if you should miss the A train,